My name is Danny Morrison, and on Christmas Eve, my wife looked me straight in the eye and said, "Your father smells like motor oil and sawdust. He's not sitting at my Christmas table." I set down the carving knife real slow, felt the room go quiet, and told her, "Fine, then none of you are either." That was the moment everything changed, but it had been building for months. I'm 48 years old. I supervise the maintenance crew at the Phillips 66 refinery on the south side of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've spent 23 years crawling through distillation columns and catalyst towers, keeping the cracking units running when it's 115 degrees in the shade or ice storms are shutting down half the state. It's dangerous work. Hydrogen sulfide leaks can kill you in minutes, and a single spark near the wrong valve can level a city block. But it's honest work, skilled work, and it paid for the brick ranch house I bought before I ever met my wife, Linda. Linda grew up in a different world entirely. Her parents, Walter and Margaret Coleman, have never gotten their hands dirty in their lives. Walter runs operations for Mercy Health Network, overseeing 5 hospitals across eastern Oklahoma. His office has floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Arkansas River and certificates covering every wall like trophies. Margaret sits on the hospital foundation board and chairs the annual charity gala, always talking about maintaining standards and associating with the right kind of people during the holidays. They like medical conferences in Scottsdale and gated communities where somebody else always handles the maintenance work. My dad, Carl Morrison, is the opposite of that. Dad's 72 years old. He spent 48 years at the Sinclair refinery down in Duncan, starting as a pipe fitter's apprentice and ending as the shift supervisor they called when the hydrocracker started acting up at 3 in the morning. Even retired, he's still the guy neighbors call when their water heater quits or their back deck needs rebuilding. His workshop behind his little house smells like WD-40 and pine shavings, with coffee cans full of screws organized by size and type on handmade shelves. Above his workbench hangs a folded American flag in a shadow box, the one they gave him when his older brother didn't come home from the Desert Storm. Next to it sits a framed photo of the safety crew he led for 15 years. Guys who trusted him to keep them alive in a place where one mistake could incinerate everything within a quarter mile. To some people, that workshop might smell like an old garage. To me, it smells like the man who taught me that your word is your bond and good work speaks louder than fancy titles. For as long as I can remember, Christmas has meant Dad and his handmade gifts. Even the years when I was broke after my divorce, scraping by in a 1-bedroom apartment, he'd show up with something carved from walnut or oak, a jewelry box with perfect dovetail joints, a picture frame sanded smooth as glass, a toy truck with wheels that actually turned. This year he'd been working on a toy chest for the neighbor kid, complete with safety hinges and a slow-close lid that wouldn't pinch little fingers. We'd sit around whatever tree I could afford, drinking coffee from mismatched mugs, and somehow it still felt like Christmas morning should. When I married Linda, I thought I was giving him something better. We had a formal dining room with a mahogany table, good china that stayed in the cabinet 11 months of the year, and enough space to seat both families around a proper Christmas spread. I pictured Dad presenting his latest woodworking project, while grandkids passed rolls around, maybe teaching them how to use a hand plane someday. It didn't work out like that. From the first Christmas we hosted, I noticed little things. Margaret wiping down her chair with a linen napkin after Dad hugged her hello. Walter making jokes about grease monkeys when he thought Dad couldn't hear, chuckling with his son-in-law about people who work with their hands. Linda cracking windows and claiming the house was stuffy, though I could see her glancing at Dad's work clothes. Clean clothes, but clothes that had seen real labor. I told myself they didn't mean harm. I told myself Dad was tough enough not to notice. The truth is I noticed. I just didn't want to fight during the holidays. This year was supposed to be different. My son from my first marriage was spending Christmas with his mother in Colorado, but Linda's parents were coming, along with her sister Claire and her husband Brad. I got up early on Christmas Eve, put the prime rib in the oven, a beautiful 8-pound roast that cost me half a day's pay, and watched the morning news while the house filled with the smell of garlic, rosemary, and Christmas morning possibilities. Around noon, I dried my hands on a dish towel and called Dad. "Hey, old man," I said. "You about ready for me to swing by and grab you? And did you finish that toy chest for the Henderson kid?" There was a pause on the line, just long enough to make my shoulders tense. "Danny," he said, and I could hear something different in his voice. "I don't think I'm coming this year." I laughed automatically, the way you do when you hear something that doesn't make sense. "What? You finally get a better offer from one of your lady friends at the senior center?" He gave a thin chuckle, but it didn't sound right. "Nothing like that. Linda called me last night. She said it was going to be a small dinner, just her folks and her sister. Said she didn't want me to feel crowded with all the medical talk." The wooden spoon in my hand hit the counter harder than I meant it to. I stared at the prime rib through the oven window, then at the doorway to the dining room, where Linda was arranging place cards on her grandmother's lace tablecloth. "She said that?" I managed. "Son, it's all right," Dad said quickly, and I could hear him trying to keep his voice steady. "You go have your dinner with your family. I heated up some leftover chili. I'll watch the Christmas specials. It's no big thing." But it was a big thing. It was 48 years of midnight emergency calls and double shifts and Little League coaching, being treated like something shameful. It was a man who'd kept dangerous equipment running so people could heat their homes and fuel their cars, being told he didn't belong at a Christmas table. "I'll call you back," I told him, and hung up before my voice could give me away. I walked into the dining room, phone still clenched in my hand. Linda was adjusting crystal glasses that caught the light from the chandelier her mother had insisted we buy for our wedding. The good silver was out, the Waterford pattern that only saw daylight twice a year, each piece polished to a mirror shine. The dining room looked like something from a magazine spread, all careful elegance and calculated perfection. "Linda," I said, keeping my voice level, though my heart was starting to pound. "Why did you tell my dad it was a small dinner? Why did you tell him not to come?" She didn't look up from the napkin she was folding into some elaborate fan shape she'd learned from her mother. "Because it is a small dinner," she said matter-of-factly. "Just immediate family. My dad is immediate family." Now she looked at me, and I could see she'd already done her hair and makeup exactly the way her mother liked. Not a strand out of place, not a line that wasn't perfect. She sighed like I was being deliberately difficult. "Danny, my parents have certain expectations for Christmas dinner," she said, still adjusting that napkin. "They don't want to sit next to someone who smells like motor oil and sawdust. I grew up with standards at the holiday table. I'm not going to have my mother uncomfortable on Christmas Eve." For a few seconds, I just stood there, trying to process what I'd heard. I saw my dad in my mind, alone in his little house in Duncan, stirring a pot of chili while Christmas movies played to an empty living room. I pictured him looking at that toy chest he'd spent weeks building, sanding every edge smooth, applying coat after coat of clear finish until it gleamed like amber. I set the carving knife down on the counter, slow and deliberate. The metal made a soft clink against the granite that seemed louder than it should have in the quiet kitchen. "Your father smells like motor oil and sawdust," she repeated, smoothing down the tablecloth with her manicured hands. "He's not sitting at my Christmas table." I looked at her, then at the polished table with its neat little place cards written in her careful cursive. Everyone's name except my dad's. Walter Coleman, Margaret Coleman, Claire Stevens, Brad Stevens, Linda Morrison, Danny Morrison. 6 place settings for Christmas Eve dinner when there should have been 7. "Fine," I said, my voice low and calm, even though something was building inside me like pressure in a boiler. "Then none of you are either." She blinked, finally looking up from her perfect table arrangement. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You'll see," I said. And that was the second my hurt turned into something colder, more calculated, something that felt a lot like resolve. 20 minutes later, the whole shape of our Christmas Eve started to change, but I didn't slam any doors when I walked out of that dining room. I didn't raise my voice or throw anything or make some dramatic scene the way people do in movies. That's not who I am, and it's not how I was raised. Instead, I went to the garage. It was cold in there, the way Oklahoma garages always are in late December, smelling of concrete and motor oil, and the faint metallic tang of tools that have seen real work. My workbench light flickered on, casting a warm yellow glow across the space. On the pegboard above the bench hung a framed photo of me at 17, standing next to my first truck, a beat-up '89 Ford Ranger that barely qualified as transportation. Dad had bought that truck from a retiring refinery worker for $500 cash. The thing barely ran, leaked every fluid it contained, and backfired so loud it set off car alarms in parking lots. But Dad showed up every weekend for 4 months straight, helping me pull the transmission, replace the gaskets, rebuild the carburetor, and scrub decades of accumulated grime from every surface. I remember asking him once why he bothered with such a hopeless piece of junk. He looked at me with those steady gray eyes of his and said, "Because you're my son, and a son ought to know what it feels like to fix something that matters. That truck's not junk. It's just been neglected. Big difference. That truck lasted 12 years after we finished with it. I drove it through high school, trade school, and my first 5 years at the refinery. When I finally sold it, the new owner called me 6 months later to say it was still running like a Swiss watch." Thinking about that memory in that cold garage, with the house full of expectations and standards behind me, something hardened inside me. Not anger, not yet. Just a firm, quiet understanding that some lines, once crossed, don't get uncrossed. I pulled out my phone and called Dad again. He answered on the first ring like he'd been sitting there waiting, hoping I'd call back with different news. "Hey, son." I could hear something in his voice, an attempt to sound cheerful that didn't quite land, like he was trying to convince himself as much as me that everything was fine. "Dad," I said softly, leaning against the workbench, "did Linda really say that to you about Christmas dinner being too small?" He hesitated, and that pause told me everything I needed to know. "She didn't want me feeling out of place," he said carefully, choosing his words like he was walking through a minefield. "Said her parents had certain preferences for the holiday, didn't want to cause any trouble." "You never caused trouble in your life," I said, and I could feel my throat tightening. "You're the easiest man in the world to share a meal with. Hell, you've probably fixed half their neighbors' cars at some point." He gave a quiet laugh, the kind that was meant to lighten the mood, but somehow made everything feel heavier. "Danny, it's okay. I've got my chili warming up on the stove. There's a Christmas movie marathon on Channel 7. I'm fine." There it was again, that automatic selflessness, that old-school Midwestern humility that wouldn't let him admit he was hurt. But behind his words, I heard something he didn't intend to show: loneliness, disappointment, and the kind of quiet dignity that comes from a lifetime of putting other people first. "No," I said, and my voice came out harder than I meant it to. "Not this time." There was a pause then. "Danny, don't do anything foolish. It's Christmas Eve. Don't go stirring up trouble." I looked around the garage at the tools he'd given me over the years: the socket set for my 18th birthday, the torque wrench when I started at the refinery, the precision micrometers when I made supervisor. I looked at the photo of my first truck, at the oil stain on the concrete floor from when he'd changed my brake fluid last spring, at the pegboard where every tool had its place because he'd taught me that organization was the difference between good work and great work. "Dad," I said quietly, "I'm not doing anything foolish. I'm finally doing something right." I hung up before he could argue, then stood there in the cold garage for a long moment, letting the plan crystallize in my mind. Inside the house, I could hear voices. Linda's sister Claire and her husband Brad arriving early, probably bringing expensive wine and stories about their latest vacation. I pictured them walking in, taking off their designer coats, Linda greeting them with that bright hostess smile while acting like everything was perfectly normal. I stepped out of the garage and walked around to the driveway. The Coleman's Mercedes sat there gleaming in the winter afternoon light, washed and detailed within an inch of its life, the kind of car that always smelled like leather conditioner and never saw a day of real work. Walter had probably spent an hour that morning making sure every surface was spotless for the drive to our house. Something about that car bothered me, not the car itself. It was a fine machine, well built, reliable, but what it represented. Everything had to look perfect with the Coleman family, appear successful, appear refined, appear superior to the working people who kept their world running. Meanwhile, my father's only crime was being authentic, being real, being the kind of man who solved problems instead of just talking about them. I stood there in the December cold, watching my breath fog in the air. And that's when the plan fully formed. Not just the outline this time, but the complete picture. A plan built on something Dad had taught me when I was 12, and we'd torn down and rebuilt a riding mower engine that everyone else said was beyond saving. He'd said, "Son, if something's broken and can't be fixed the way it is, sometimes you gotta take the whole thing apart. Figure out what's worth keeping, throw out what's rotten, and build it back the way it should have been in the first place." This Christmas situation was broken, and it was time to take the whole thing apart. I went back inside. Claire was opening a bottle of wine that probably cost more than most people spent on groceries in a month. Walter and Margaret were admiring the dining room, commenting on how lovely everything looked. Linda was checking the prime rib, looking pleased with herself and her perfectly orchestrated Christmas Eve. She glanced at me when I walked back in, but didn't seem to notice the change in my expression. "Dinner's almost ready," she said cheerfully. "Dad wants to say grace before we eat. I told him we'd wait for him to carve the roast." I nodded slowly, looking at Walter adjusting his tie, at Margaret smoothing down her dress, at Claire and Brad discussing their plans for New Year's in Aspen. "Yeah," I said. "Grace, that sounds appropriate." Linda smiled like everything was settled, like the uncomfortable moment had passed, and we could all pretend my father had never been part of the plan to begin with. "I set out the good china," she said. "Mother loves the Christmas pattern." "I noticed," I said. "Looks real nice." It did look nice. It looked perfect, in fact. But perfect isn't always right, and right was about to become more important than perfect. 10 minutes later, I had the back door propped open, the carving knife set aside, and a plan in motion that would change not just Christmas Eve, but everything that came after. I didn't go back to the dining room after that. Instead, I stepped quietly into the kitchen, grabbed my oven mitts, and opened the oven door. The prime rib was perfect, golden brown crust glistening with herbs and garlic, the internal temperature exactly where it needed to be for that perfect medium rare. The smell of Christmas dinner rose into the warm air, rich and savory and promising. Linda had done good work on this roast, no denying that. But it wasn't going to be eaten in this house, not by these people. I stood there for a moment, letting the heat from the oven wash over my face, thinking about all the Christmas dinners that had come before this one. Dad showing up with his handmade gifts wrapped in brown paper, his face lighting up when kids tore into the wooden toys he'd spent months perfecting in his workshop. The way he'd always volunteer to carve whatever meat we were serving, his hands steady and sure from decades of precision. Work. How he'd listen to everyone's stories about their year, asking questions that showed he actually cared about the answers. I shut the oven gently, slipped on the mitts, and started pulling dishes off the counter. Green beans with toasted almonds, sweet potatoes topped with pecans, a pan of cornbread stuffing still warm from the stove, homemade dinner rolls that had taken me 3 hours to get right. One by one, I loaded them into aluminum containers I kept in the pantry for taking leftovers to work. The kitchen filled with voices from the dining room, Linda laughing at something Walter said, someone uncorking another bottle of wine, Margaret commenting on how lovely the crystal looked in the candlelight. And then Claire's voice, casual as anything. "Did Danny ever pick up his father? I didn't see his truck in the driveway." Linda answered without missing a beat, like she was discussing the weather. "No, I told him not to bother coming. We're keeping it intimate this year. Just family." There was a round of approving murmurs, little sounds of agreement, like they all thought it was perfectly reasonable to exclude a man who'd never done anything worse than work with his hands for a living. Walter chuckled and said something about how nice it was to have a civilized dinner for once. That was the moment. The moment the last of my doubt disappeared and the plan locked into place like a gear clicking into position. These people weren't just excluding my father. They were celebrating it. I moved fast and quiet after that. I grabbed my keys from the hook by the back door, slipped out into the cold December evening, and walked straight to my truck. The sun was setting, painting the sky that deep orange you only get in Oklahoma winter, throwing long shadows across the frost-covered grass. I could see my neighbors' Christmas lights starting to twinkle on, families gathering around their own tables, probably including everyone who mattered to them. I opened the tailgate and began loading the food. The aluminum containers clattered softly against each other, my breath puffing in little clouds as I worked. When the prime rib came out last, I set it in the truck bed like it was something sacred. In a way, it was. This wasn't just dinner anymore. It was the foundation of a different kind of Christmas Eve, one built on actual respect instead of artificial standards. As I slid the last container into the cab, my phone started buzzing, a text from Linda. "Where are you?" Then another. "Danny, dinner's ready." I ignored them and drove. The streets were mostly empty, peaceful, just bare trees and houses glowing with warm light. I passed the old Sinclair station, where Dad had bought gas for 40 years, then the VFW post, where he still volunteered for pancake breakfasts and charity drives, then the turnoff for Highway 75 that led down to Duncan. But I wasn't going to Duncan, not yet. 15 minutes later, I pulled into the parking lot of St. Mark's Community Center. Dad had been volunteering there for going on 20 years. Fish fries on Fridays, pancake breakfasts for the youth programs, free car repair clinics for single mothers and elderly folks who couldn't afford garage rates. The place always had a warm, honest feeling to it, like community was something that actually mattered, instead of just a word people used when they wanted to sound charitable. Inside the center, lights were already on, and the smell of coffee was in the air. A handful of volunteers, folks from the church, and a few retired refinery workers I recognized from the company picnics, were setting up folding tables for the community Christmas Eve dinner they held every year. Nothing fancy, just a place for people who might otherwise spend the holiday alone to share a meal and some conversation. The second I walked in with aluminum containers stacked in my arms, Pastor Williams looked up from the table he was arranging. "Danny Morrison," he said with a smile. "Everything all right?" I nodded, feeling something settle in my chest for the first time all day. "Better than all right, Pastor. I need to ask you a favor." He didn't hesitate, didn't ask for explanations. "What can we do for you?" "I've got Christmas dinner for about 8 people out in my truck," I said. "Prime rib, all the sides, enough food to feed half the neighborhood. I was wondering if you could use it for the community dinner tonight." Pastor Williams grinned like I just handed him a winning lottery ticket. "Son, that would be a Christmas miracle. We were planning on ham sandwiches and whatever canned goods folks brought in." 2 of Dad's old co-workers, Chuck Martinez and Eddie Walsh, came over to help without being asked. They'd known my father since the Duncan refinery days, back when men like him kept the lights on and the heat running for half of Oklahoma. Chuck slapped the side of my truck, laughing as the smell of prime rib and herbs drifted out. "Man, this beats the hell out of anything we usually serve here. You sure about this, Danny?" "Every last bit," I said. "And I've got one more stop to make before the real dinner starts." They grinned and started carrying containers inside, calling for more volunteers to help set up the serving tables. As they worked, I stood in the parking lot for a minute, breathing in the cold December air and watching the community center transform. Simple paper angels hung from the ceiling, made by kids who probably didn't have much, but still found ways to celebrate. The American flag in the corner reminded me of the one in Dad's workshop, and for the first time all day, I felt like I was in the right place. I got back in my truck and drove the 30 minutes down to Duncan, following Highway 81 through small towns, where Christmas lights twinkled in farmhouse windows. Dad's house sat at the end of a quiet street, his porch light casting a warm yellow circle in the gathering darkness. Through the living room window, I could see him in his old recliner, a bowl of chili growing cold in his lap, while "It's a Wonderful Life" played on his television. When I knocked, he opened the door, looking surprised and a little worried. "Danny, everything okay? You look like you're up to something." "Yeah, Dad," I said, unable to keep the grin off my face. "Everything's fine. Come on, grab your good jacket." He frowned, glancing back at the TV. "What for?" "Christmas dinner moved," I said. "We're eating with people who actually deserve to share a table with you." He stared at me for a long moment, then shook his head with that slow chuckle of his. "You did something, didn't you? Please tell me it wasn't anything that's going to get you in trouble." "Nothing illegal," I said. "Trust me." He grabbed his jacket, the good one he wore to church and VFW functions, navy blue with his safety supervisor pin still attached to the lapel, and followed me out to the truck. As we drove back toward Tulsa, he said, "You want to tell me what this is about?" "You'll see when we get there," I said. "But Dad, you're going to have the Christmas Eve you actually deserve." When St. Mark's Community Center came into view, lit up like a beacon with cars filling the parking lot, he tilted his head curiously. "What's all this?" I parked and walked around to help him out of the truck. "Dad," I said, "you're spending Christmas with people who know what respect really means." The moment he walked through those doors, the place erupted. "Carl! Hey, buddy! There's our safety man. Merry Christmas." People I'd known for years clapped him on the back. The widow whose alternator he'd replaced last winter hugged him tight and said she couldn't imagine Christmas without the county's best mechanic. Dad looked overwhelmed in the best possible way, his eyes bright and his smile genuine for the first time all day. Meanwhile, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Linda's calls, her parents' texts, little digital explosions of confusion and growing panic. But Christmas was happening here now, at folding tables covered with red tablecloths, surrounded by people who understood what family really meant. 20 minutes later, the community center doors burst open. Linda swept in first, her hair windblown and her heels clicking against the tile floor like gunshots. Her parents followed, Walter red-faced and struggling to maintain his dignity. Margaret looking around the folding tables and paper decorations like she'd stumbled into a homeless shelter. Claire and Brad trailed behind, confused and embarrassed. But here's the thing nobody expected. The people in that hall didn't care who the Colemans thought they were. They weren't impressed by Walter's hospital network or Margaret's charity board positions. They were just folks who'd come together on Christmas Eve to share what they had with people who mattered. Linda marched straight toward me, her face flushed with embarrassment and anger. "Danny, what is this? Where is our dinner? Why did you bring it here?" I kept my voice calm and level. "Because this is where Christmas belongs tonight." She stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "With strangers?" Before I could answer, Chuck Martinez walked over with his old Navy Seabees cap pushed back on his gray head. He nodded respectfully at Dad, then looked Linda right in the eye. "Ma'am," he said, his voice polite but firm as steel, "your husband's father is the kind of man who built this country, the kind who shows up when things break and fixes them right the first time." The room went quiet, heads nodded. A few of the elderly folks murmured agreement. Linda blinked, clearly not expecting to be judged by people she'd never considered important enough to notice. And in that moment, I saw something crack in her expression. Not anger, not indignation, shame. Deep, sudden, unvarnished shame as she realized how Dad belonged here in ways she'd never belonged anywhere that mattered. Then came the final stroke. I pulled out my phone, opened Facebook, and tapped the post I'd made while driving to get Dad. I held the screen up so everyone around us could see and hear as I read it aloud. Heartfelt thanks to the Coleman family for their generous donation of Christmas Eve dinner to the St. Mark's Community Center tonight. Walter, Margaret, Linda, Claire, and Brad. Your Christmas spirit and willingness to feed local families in need reminds us what this season is really about. I'd tagged all of them. The post was already getting likes and comments from people who knew them, colleagues from the hospital, members of their country club, neighbors from their upscale subdivision, all praising their generosity and Christmas spirit. Walter's face went from red to purple. Margaret gasped and grabbed his arm. Linda stared at my phone like it was a loaded gun. They stood frozen, caught between fury and humiliation, utterly powerless to explain this without looking even worse. The hall erupted in warm, appreciative laughter, not mockery, genuine appreciation for what they thought was an act of selfless giving. Dad grabbed my arm, his eyes filling with tears. "Son," he whispered, 48 years I fixed everyone else's problems. Nobody ever fixed mine." "Tonight I did, Dad," I said quietly. And right there, surrounded by real community and authentic Christmas spirit, I finally understood what the holiday was supposed to feel like.